name is Matt Schrager. I'm a chair and associate professor in the department. I've been here for 11 years, and the courses I teach are typically things like biomechanics, the research sequence. I teach exercise physiology and aging, physiological systems. And so just to give you a preview of the topic I'm going to talk about later with aging, exercise, and stress, I wanted to see if anyone has heard of the term biological or physiological aging, I think, or age as related to function. Something I've been thinking a lot about the last few days with the election and how it's been aging me personally, quickly at an accelerated rate, just the stress that's involved with that. But essentially, when you look at biological age or physiological age, it's related more to function. So how well your cardiovascular system is working, as an example. It's separate from your chronological age, which is just the number of days you've been alive. So it's something as a preview I'm going to be talking about, and how the effect of stress can be minimized by exercise and physical activity. Okay, so if you look at the pandemic and some of the aspects of that, dealing with stress is important in exercise, as evidenced by things like a 600% increase in bike sales, for example. Exercise is really important with dealing with that stress. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the department a little bit, just talk a little bit about some of the history briefly, and give you a preview of what's to come next. Okay, so the general information, as you may know, we're the largest major on campus with about 300 students. The number of faculty in the department has been growing steadily, as I'll talk about, to match that, but we're still working on that aspect of it. A little bit of history. The department began in 1993 with the hiring of Dr. Michelle Skelton, who you'll meet as well. At that time, it was known as the Department of, it was a sport and exercise program, exercise science program, and it was housed within the Stetson Division of Education. In the year 2000, the sport and exercise program was split up into sport management, and that remained in that division until 2012. And then Department of Integrative Health Sciences was founded there, and that moved into the Division of Natural Sciences. Okay, and so in 2016, the name was simplified from Department of Integrative Health Sciences, and that name has kind of stuck with us, though, and that's a good thing. It really, that name, integrative, that term illustrates how we bring together different aspects of health in an integrative way that is more comprehensive, we feel. So students still ask us about that name. They want to have that as part of the name of the department, and that's something we're still discussing, actually. So currently, we're the Department of Health Sciences for simplicity's sake, and we use that integrative health approach, as you'll see, for students going into professional fields like medicine, physical therapy, occupational therapy, physician assistant, pharmacy, veterinary medicine, dental, all kinds of stuff. So leaving our program, they have that integrative approach. From 2001 to 2016, enrollment increased in our department from 15 to 212 majors, which is more than a 10-fold increase. And we now, as I said, we're number one. We have 300 approximate students there. Our program is also distinct in combining the rigor of natural science education and a comprehensive kind of integrative view of wellness that includes psychological community, spiritual, ethical aspects of health. And that's the goal, is to create students who come out with that perspective of the whole person, treating the whole person. And then we offer things like a rigorous human anatomy and physiology course. That's a 2-semester course with lab that has it's a very distinctive course at an undergraduate liberal arts school like this. And it really prepares our students for other upper division courses too, like functional anatomy, advanced anatomy with UCF that Dr. Skelton may talk about, and then things like exercise physiology I mentioned. Okay, so we've been adding steadily to the department, some great components and great faculty. First, with Dr. Magoch, you'll meet with his focus on the vitally important aspect of behavioral health and behavioral modification. Dr. Evans Anderson, with her focus on outstanding instruction on anatomy and physiology, and a lot of her benchwork science related to cardiomyocyte development. It's in using models has been really outstanding. As an addition, the addition of Dr. Ladigan Potgieter Ronette is in terms of nutrition and increasing the rigor of that aspect of our curriculum, has been outstanding as well, and we've made that a requirement for our students to take that course. The newest addition with Dr. Christine Dye that you'll meet, who is fresh off her PhD at the University of Washington. She studies viruses and how viruses perturb normal cellular function. Those perturbations result in disease and or cancer. So extremely exciting additions we've had over the years recently. Okay, that's all I had for the introduction.
Teaching at Stetson for 3 years. I primarily teach anatomy and physiology, as well as senior research project and proposal. And so today I want to talk to you about box breathing. It's something that I do to try to calm myself down, but I want to talk to you about the physiology of it and how your body responds when you do slow breathing. So I want to share with you some animations from Visible Body, which was a really exciting addition this year to my class since we were online, and it was provided by Stetson alumni. And so donors contributed to a technology fund, and this enabled us to purchase licenses for Visible Body for all of our students going through anatomy and physiology this semester. So I want to share with you that screen. Bear with me while I show you these beautiful videos that we have. Turn off the sound here. So when you breathe, your thoracic cavity expands. And so watch in this video, see how the ribs are spreading and the lungs are filling with air, the diaphragm contracts, and the volume of the thoracic cage expands. And so when you take a really deep breath, all of the lobes of your lungs fill with air, and that air is then exchanged with the blood capillaries for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. But mechanically, what's happening is that expansion of your rib cage and the control of your breath really helps to focus your mind as well as your body. And so what we're going to do now is I'd like you to do an exercise with me where you do box breathing. And so this is a fun little GIF, and it's showing you, I actually have this bookmarked so that I can remind myself to breathe every now and then. And so what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in deeply for 4 counts, and you're going to hold it for 4 counts. And then you're going to breathe out for 4 counts, and you're going to hold it for 4 counts. And so think of it, square breathing is another name for this box breathing technique. So you're going to breathe in deeply, and then breathe in as deep as you possibly can, expanding that thoracic cage as much as you can, and then hold it. And that holding it is the key for you to increase your carbon dioxide levels within your blood. And when you increase your carbon dioxide levels in your blood, that is going to trigger activation of your parasympathetic nervous system. And the parasympathetic nervous system is something that happens when you are resting and digesting, you're relaxed. There are all kinds of physiological responses that go along with the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is the basis, the physiological basis between deep breathing, the connection of deep breathing, and the activation of your parasympathetic nervous system. So the next time you're in a yoga class or something where you need to take a few deep breaths, which I think we all need to do a lot of these days, stressful times, but try box breathing and see if it can center you. It actually even, I mean, there's all kinds of research out there that shows that it helps change the pattern in your brain and activates the emotional control centers in your brain. And so there's all kinds of wonderful things that happen when you do box breathing. So thank you for joining us today. We're really excited that you came to our homecoming event.
Hello everybody, my name is Jeanette Lategan-Potgieter and I'm a registered dietitian originally from South Africa. I absolutely love teaching and promoting good nutrition and the important role that dietary choices play in health and wellness. In my short presentation today, I'm going to tell you what to eat to never stress again. No, not really, but I'm going to tell you what to eat to get optimal performance from your body and to lower the damage that stress does to the body. My aim today is to remind you that every part of the body, mind, thoughts and reactions are influenced by what we eat. But first, before we start, have a quick look at your body, your hands, nails, your arms and legs. The wonderful reality is that absolutely every part of our body was made from building blocks that were obtained from the food that we choose to eat every day. To make sure that we reach our genetic potential and really feel great, we need adequate amounts of all the essential nutrients the body requires. I often explain it to my students by comparing our genetic material or DNA to a recipe and then the food we eat to the ingredients necessary to make this recipe. We all have a very good idea of how to eat healthy, but we often don't. So let's have a look. Sometimes, if we understand the consequences of our actions or choices, it's easier to make better choices. When it comes to food choices, we don't see the health effects of poor nutrition immediately. It can take weeks and even months or years to feel or see the physical consequences of poor food choices. Our bodies can resist quite a lot of nutritional abuse, but up to a point. At this point, we will then start seeing the damage in the form of poor health and wellness. Our bodies will use the nutrients that we do get from our diet in triage to make sure that we survive. Okay, so let's look at stress from a nutritional point of view. Stress is a normal physiological reaction to protect us from harm and danger by making nutrients available to our body to increase the chance of survival, the so-called flight-fight response. However, the amount of stress we experience nowadays and extended periods of high levels of stress in our everyday living are concerning, especially because we know it links with increasing rates of obesity. When high levels of continuous stress stimulate the release of stress hormones, we often see that dietary intakes suffer, either because of a reduced food intake or a change to an over-reliance in comfort food. So a busy and very stressful life is really seldomly associated with good, healthy eating patterns because of the rewarding of the value of tasty comfort foods that increase our natural opioid production and release. Stress hormones like cortisol narrows our arteries to increase their blood pressure and also to restrict blood flow. This leads them to a faster heartbeat and a higher load on the heart. But it also floods the body with glucose and lower insulin secretion to prevent the storage of glucose. High cortisol levels therefore shuts down or reduces various functions in the body that are not required for survival, such as the digestive and the reproductive system, and it also suppresses the immune system. A study in 2017 described how the digestive system or the gut becomes more permeable and how the natural organisms that we find in the gut changes when we are exposed to stress. These changes influence our ability to fight disease and also the way we absorb nutrients in the body. Even before birth, maternal stress has been shown to influence the nutrients that's available to the developing fetus and therefore the health and the development of the baby. Stress hormones also influence the type of foods we choose to eat and the reward we get from food intake. During chronic stress situations, hormonal changes and chemical messengers causes us to then increase our preference for high fat, sugar-rich foods, and this response can start as early as childhood. Unfortunately, stress is an inescapable part of our everyday life, which affects our health and our functioning by interfering then with normal body processes. Fortunately, we know now that good food choices can lower the negative effects that stress have on the body by lowering inflammation and oxidation and preventing weight gain. Okay, so how do we do it? Various studies have shown that an increase in dietary carbohydrate intake resulted in lower cortisol levels, and that foods high in omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin E, and polyphenols, that's the plant chemicals that we find in red wine, blueberries, and dark chocolate, has shown to improve blood flow, especially in the brain. We also know that certain foods or dietary changes can help the body to cope with stress because of its anti-inflammatory response. A low glycemic index diet that does not cause blood sugar spikes, but includes unrefined and fiber-rich grains, also fruit and vegetables, less saturated and trans fats, less caffeine, lots of fiber-rich plant-based foods that are packed with phytochemicals and antioxidants like fruit and vegetables, omega-3 fatty acids, daily physical activity, and maintaining a healthy body weight. All of these is shown to protect the body against inflammation and the damage done by constant high levels of stress hormones. The brain chemical serotonin that's linked to the feeling of happiness and causes relaxation is made from tryptophan. And tryptophan is an amino acid that we get from eating protein-rich foods, and it also requires vitamin B6 to be formed. A plant form of serotonin, known as phytoserotonin, is also present in various foods like tomatoes and pineapples, nuts, bananas, and plums, which further encourage us to include the recommended 5 a day of fruit and vegetables in our diets. So to conclude, when we feel stressed, glad or sad, what we eat matters. Stress is a common problem in modern societies that increases not only our body weight, but also our nutrient requirements and worsens nutrient deficiencies. This is because it increases the use and the excretion of many nutrients. A healthy, balanced diet packed with fruit and vegetables containing lean proteins and healthy fats can therefore not only prevent physiological stress, but also help to fight the negative consequences of our daily stressful living, and therefore help us to reach our full genetic potential.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Dai, and today I'm going to follow along with the theme of discussing stress. But I'm going to talk about in terms of my area of expertise. So I study viruses, the immune system, and the development of cancer. Before I get to that, I want to tell you a little bit about me. Chances are that some of you I look familiar to, and most of the others I probably don't look very familiar. It's because this is my first semester at Stetson. Currently, I am teaching IntraBio 1, Health and Wellness. I also teach a viral spillover class, so we study how viruses actually transmit or spill over into humans, and how that could lead to big pandemics like COVID-19, which we're currently experiencing. Next semester, I'll be teaching IntraBio viral spillover, and I'll also be teaching senior research proposal. In terms of my research, I study viruses and I study cancer, and I also study how viruses can lead to the development of cancer. A lot of people don't know that viruses actually cause cancer, but they do. About 20% of all cancers are caused by viruses. Specifically, I study a virus called Merkel cell polyomavirus, which is a virus that was just discovered in 2008, and it causes Merkel cell carcinoma, which is a very rare but aggressive skin cancer that's 3 times as deadly as melanoma, which was previously thought to be the most deadly skin cancer. You may be wondering, well, what does stress have to do with viruses and cancer? And you need to look at it more broadly speaking. So remember, viruses, they're all over our body, but they're controlled by our immune system. Cancer is essentially a disease where the cells in our body are dividing uncontrollably. And so our immune system and its ability to regulate viruses and the development of cancer can be caused or influenced by stress, because chronic stress can alter the ability of our bodies to perform their natural biological and physiological processes. which ultimately could lead to defects in the immune system and the ability to detect cancer cells. It doesn't come as any surprise to us that at the moment stress is not in short supply. There have been many surveys to measure the amount of stress that we're currently experiencing. You can see in January to June of 2019, we had about 10% of individuals reporting symptoms of anxiety disorder or depressive disorder. But now here in 2020, within the same time frame, January to June, you can see that's about 3 times higher than normal. And unfortunately, as the pandemic progresses, most likely these numbers will increase. But in saying this, I hope you realize that stress isn't always bad. Acute stress is fine. In fact, it was humans that we have evolved the stress response to help protect us from life-threatening situations. So this is important. The reason why we usually think of stress negatively is because usually we're thinking more of chronic stress. So if you're continually keeping your body in a heightened state, it can start to wear on your body. And again, it can wear on those biological and physiological processes, such as your immune system and the ability of your cells to divide abnormally, leading to the development of cancer. And so there have been many studies that have tried to make a connection of whether or not prolonged stress could make you more susceptible to infections. So again, we are constantly being exposed to bacteria and viruses that can cause disease in our bodies, but most of the time your immune system is able to control it before you actually start to develop symptoms. So this was a study done in 1991 where they took 394 healthy subjects that had various levels of stress, and they actually exposed them intranasally with different common cold viruses. They exposed them to either rhinoviruses. Again, these are just viruses that cause common cold. You've probably been infected with at least a dozen of these in your lifetime. Also RSV, respiratory syncytial virus, another virus that just causes common cold. And they also include some coronaviruses in here, which again, you're probably thinking, why were they infecting people with coronavirus? Because you all think of COVID-19. But coronaviruses aren't all bad. There are actually 4 coronaviruses that are always circulating. They cause seasonal mild cold symptoms. So when we talk about SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19, that's a highly pathogenic coronavirus. These are just the mild coronaviruses that cause the common colds, and chances are you've been infected with in the past. They also included a negative control, obviously, for the placebo group, which was saline. So after infecting these people with the virus, these viruses, they quarantined them and they monitored them for common cold symptoms. And essentially what they found is, interestingly, that there was a direct correlation between the physiological stress index, so how much stress these people were reporting, and to the amount of people who actually developed colds. And so what this essentially is saying is that prolonged stress can actually make you more susceptible to infection. So you're always exposed, but whether or not you actually get sick can be correlated to your stress levels. We also decided to take this a little bit further and try to understand what exactly was happening. And so we found that prolonged stress can actually inhibit your antibody response. So this is a picture that is hanging in my office. This is SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. And these yellow Y-shaped molecules are antibodies. And so antibodies are a really important component of our immune system. They like to flag things that are foreign so our immune system can remove it. And they also provide memory. So if you've been infected with SARS-CoV-2, chances are if you got an antibody test, you would have antibodies because those antibodies will circulate in you for a long time to protect you from reinfection. And so you can develop these antibodies either naturally by being exposed to a virus or any kind of pathogen just in nature, or by artificial exposure, which essentially is what vaccines are. And so another study wanted to see whether or not prolonged stress could inhibit your antibody response. And they tested people who were spouse caregivers of people that have progressive dementia. So you can imagine that these people have high stress levels. They compared these individuals to age, sex, and socioeconomic matched controls, so people that have normal stress levels. They injected each of them with an influenza vaccine, just like you and I get every single winter. And essentially they wanted to see what the immune activation after injection of this influenza vaccine would be. And not surprisingly, in these healthy controls, they found that after the influenza vaccine, this led to increased immune activation, antibody protection, and production. But in the people who had high levels of stress, we saw it actually did not have as high of an activation. There was a decreased immune activation, antibody protection, which again is suggesting that prolonged stress can inhibit your body's ability to respond to pathogens, whether it be artificial or natural, and to mount an antibody response. The next question is, well, how exactly does it affect your immune system? One of the major stress hormones is cortisol, and it's been found that cortisol can actually bind to receptors on immune cells. It can lower the ability of these lymphocytes to proliferate and divide in response to infection. It can also lower their ability to migrate to sites of infection and help control and contain the infection. And it's also been found that high levels of cortisol can lead to systemic inflammation through the production of cytokines. So you may have heard of the cytokine storm. This is a big reason why a lot of people, unfortunately, are succumbing to COVID-19, because a lot of cytokines is damaging to your body, even though it is your immune response. And so essentially cortisol increasing cytokines could also be very damaging to your body just because of stress as well. The last thing I want to mention is that yes, chronic stress has been found to make it more likely to develop cancer. Again, the correlation isn't huge, but there has been a correlation between stress and the development of cancer. And again, it's tied back to the fact that your immune system is weakened with chronic stress. So remember we mentioned how cancer is an abnormal form of cellular division. And as these cells divide off more and more and more, they actually don't look normal. They have signs and flags and receptors on their surface that the immune system can detect them. And even though there are cells, they don't look normal. And so it's the immune system's job to actually detect these cancerous cells and contain them before they become a serious disease and the formation of a tumor. As we mentioned before, stress can weaken immune detection, it can weaken your immune response, and that unfortunately means that cancer cells may evade detection by the immune system. Also, cortisol has been found to increase blood supply and growth factors, which could ultimately expedite tumor development as well. So I know I'm saying all these things like stress, which we all have, cancer, immune dysfunction, etc. And I want you to realize that there is no need to fear. This isn't something that you should worry about. These are very drastic consequences to extremely high and long-lived stress responses. Also with cancer and immune suppression, there are many other factors that can contribute to that. So just because you may be feeling a little bit of stress this semester doesn't mean that you're destined to develop cancer in the future. So my biggest piece of advice is just to stay positive, take it a day at a time, and be the best that you can be. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dan Maguch, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Health Sciences. I'm originally from Europe, but I've been in the US for the past 20 years. I spent my first 10 years in Texas, then moved to Illinois, and for the past a little over 6 years, I've been at Stanford. My main area of interest is in behavioral science, specifically health behaviors, and identifying the most important constructs from behavioral theories and applying them in helping individuals change their behaviors towards a healthy lifestyle has become my passion. So what do I teach at Stetson? I teach health and wellness, I teach theories and methods of behavioral change, I teach cross-cultural aspects of health behavior, but one of my favorite courses is definitely taking students abroad for study abroad programs. Being abroad is an excellent opportunity for students to learn about different cultures, different traditions, to meet new people, and to bring something valuable back. Most importantly, when students return to the States, they become transformed. So what does stress have to do with all this? Well, we are all stressed, sometimes less, sometimes more. The question is, how do we manage it? Do we use any specific approach to manage stress? Do we use our current behaviors to manage stress? The first thing that comes to mind when we talk about active living is probably physical activity. However, the lack of physical activity has become one of the major public health concerns in general population, leading to obesity, which has significant consequences of health and economy. And healthcare in the United States is higher than in any other country in the world. Now, people younger than 18 years of age make up approximately 20% of the total population in Florida, with 17.8% being obese, ranking Florida number 8 among all US states, which means only 7 states had higher obesity rates for this age group. Moreover, approximately 61% of children in this age group do not meet recommendations for physical activity, and about 22% do not participate in at least 60 minutes of physical activity per day. Promoting a healthy lifestyle through active living has become a challenge in modern societies, primarily due to an increase in sedentary behaviors. For instance, 75.8% of children 10 to 17 years of age does not participate in daily physical activity. 22% watch TV 3 or more hours a day, Almost 48% use computers 3 or more hours a day. 39.2% eat fruits and vegetables less than 1 time a day. And about 74% drink at least a cup, bottle, or glass of soda in 1 week. And these statistics are worrisome. These are all the reasons why several years ago I started implementing a new program called 5210 in Volusia County Schools. 5210 is a nationwide childhood obesity prevention initiative. It originated in May, but it has been implemented in multiple states across the US, including Florida, especially northern side of Florida. There are several variations of this program, and one of them is 5210 plus 10. So what does 5210 stand for? Well, 5 stands for 5 servings of fruits and veggies per day, 2 hours or less of recreational screen time per day, 1 hour or more of physical activity, 0 sweetened drinks, more water, and 10 hours of sleep. These are all considered behaviors that contribute to our overall healthy lifestyle. Now, where does the behavioral change happen? Well, it happens everywhere. In schools, communities, parks and recreation, and transportation. Schools, for example, play a critical role in helping children develop healthy lifestyle, especially through recess, physical education classes, and after-school programs and activities. And research shows that kids who tend to move more demonstrate a better academic performance, better in-class behavior, and less missed school day. Living in safe and well-maintained communities increase the chance of children, their families, and community members to become more active compared to those living in unsafe communities with high crime rates. Parks and recreation facilities help people of all ages maintain healthy lifestyle. However, lower-income communities tend to have less access to quality parks and facilities that support the mission of active living and provide equal opportunities for healthy growth and development. And finally, active travel, which is usually linked to walking and bicycling as a form of transportation, are also important ways to maintain healthy lifestyle. However, such form of travel has drastically decreased over the past few decades. So designing communities and building the infrastructure that support active travel would create new opportunities for recreational activities, which in turn could have a positive effect on healthy living. The question is, are we ready to make a change? Are we ready to change our behaviors? Are we ready to put our old behaviors behind and move in a different direction? This is the choice we need to make. So how do we change our behaviors towards healthy behaviors in order to help us fight stress? For some people, this becomes more challenging than others. However, we can all take some small steps toward reaching our goals. We need to slow down. We need to plan ahead and allow enough time to get the most important things done without having to rush. We also need to add some more sleep into our daily lives. Let worry go. The world is not going to stop if a few things fall off of your plate. Give yourself a break and just breathe. Laugh more. It will make you feel much better. Get connected and stay connected. Socialize with your friends, with your family members. Get organized. Do a step at a time. Volunteer. Help other people, because helping other people helps you too. Be active every day. Find something you think it's fun and stick with it. Give up the bad habits. And finally, make time to learn a new skill. Work towards a goal or to love and help others. I wish you all the best, and I hope you will be brave enough to make changes in your life. Changes that will make you live a healthier lifestyle. So eat smart, move more, and be well.
Hi again, it's me, Matt. I was just going to give you a quick overview of some of the effects of stress on aging and how exercise can get in the middle of that process. So if you look at, first of all, exercise has dramatic effects on mortality, as we'll talk about. Stress and nutrition interweave with each other and affect aging and mobility. And then if you look at exercise training and stress, how it affects that. In terms of recovery, we'll get into that one. Finally, we'll talk about some of the benefits on health. But first of all, if you look at the effects of stress on mortality, it's really dramatic effects. Extreme example here, this is one during the war as well. If you look at this other data over here, just in terms of the Netherlands population, Dutch population in 1945, which was still during World War II, mortality rates were extremely elevated for any given age, from age 0 up to age 80. As compared to here in 1946, after the war, mortality rates, number of dying per 1,000 per year, you'll see this line is much lower at any given age. Similar graph on the left, and you'll see here, with this Baltimore longitudinal study of aging, this is a study I worked on during my postdoc. This is a way to conceptualize aging and look at this outcome here to start. So work your way from right to left. Mobility is easy to measure, and it sort of captures all these different effects of aging on these various systems in the body. So look at the central nervous system or muscles, for example. And then if you go another step back upstream, you'll see hormones affect these systems along with oxidative stress, inflammation, etc. So I'm first going to focus on inflammation, oxidative stress, and nutrition, how those affect mobility. And if you look at some of the research we do, exercise helps maintain your physical function. Nutrition does as well. It helps deal with stress with respect to oxidative stress. Here, antioxidants are found in high levels in blueberries, as many of you know. And if you can have good nutrition along with physical activity, your aging trajectory is much better. So again, focusing on these other aspects of aging, you can see hormones also come into play, along with some of the things we mentioned before, central nervous system as well, and this all affects mobility. Specifically here, if you look at the nervous system, you'll see things like memory are improved dramatically in the hippocampus, the central nervous system in the brain. If you're more active and trained, you'll see these individuals who are trained versus sedentary individuals, they do better on those kind of tests. Brain, cognitive function. Look at the endocrine system, it's more efficient. You look at factors like the norepinephrine, epinephrine response to threat, to some kind of outside stress. It's better, quicker response. Your growth hormone, your cortisol, if you have a stressful exercise bout or even just a stressful situation, psychologically, you're going to respond better and recover better from that. If we look here again, you can see the effects of aging and the effects of inflammation, physical activity, etc. As we look here with physical activity, despite any kind of training you do, everyone will demonstrate some decline in their performance. Even Ed Whitlock, this guy here, who ran a sub 3-hour marathon at age 74, he was not as fast at that time as he was when he was 20. And at age 80, he was an hour slower than that. So it's going to catch up with you at some point. The good news is exercise, physical activity in general, allow you to function better, allow you to prevent heart attacks, which again have a big stress component, and allow you to survive longer. So this heart attack graph over here, you can see going from a sedentary situation here to just a little bit of exercise here, 500 to 999 kilocalories per week. It's not a lot of exercise. That'll give you a big benefit in terms of your risk of heart attack. Continue to exercise up to right around here, around 2,000 to 2,099 kilocalories per week. That's about 5 days per week, 30 minutes per exercise session. You get a maximal benefit. That's not a huge amount of exercise. A lot of you do that already, and you're getting that benefit at a relatively modest amount of exercise. You can see here, this is Tour de France riders on this upper line here. They have much better survivorship rates at any given age as compared to the general population down here in this part of the graph here. So again, mortality is improved, your heart attack risk is improved, your stress response is improved when you are more exercise trained. Okay, so if you look at frailty, this is an extreme end of the spectrum away from Ed Whitlock, where in frailty, you've got a lot of vulnerability, a lot of things related to fear of falling, and actual falling. You also have problems with your function, mobility disability, just to put it in terms of numbers, if you are unable to walk faster than 15 minutes around a track once, so think about that, that's quite a long time. 15 minutes to do one lap, you're classified as having mobility disability. Okay, so you definitely want to avoid that kind of level of function. The way to do that is to stay active, reduce your stress by staying active. Those things go hand in hand, as I've just shown you. And once you get into that frailty diagnosis and you have this kind of hunched over position as you're walking and you're lacking in your function, once you get into that range, it's very difficult to reverse that. So it's much better to avoid it, be preventive in terms of your approach, maintain your physical activity, which will reduce your stress, improve sleep, do all kinds of things to improve your overall health. So like I'm saying here, the effects of stress are real. Like I was showing you in that first graph, it's going to affect your mortality. It's going to affect how you age, how you look in gray hair. You look at Obama, before he started his presidency, and at the end, 8 years later, much different appearance. Good news is, like I was saying, exercise can do a lot. It can actually reverse a lot of those effects. So after he was done with his presidency, he did a lot of kite surfing. Much happier, looked better, looked younger, and actually was. So thank you for your time. Stay active, and have a good day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session. I want to first thank all my colleagues for doing such a wonderful job at covering the information that we are deciding to cover today. I'm going to do some summary slides. I'm Michelle Skelton. I'm what you call the elder in our department. I've been here more than 25 years. We'll just say that. I'm also an alumni of Stetson University. So what I teach is practically everything over that 25 years. But now, because I have such wonderful colleagues to teach a lot of these classes, my focus is more anatomy and physiology. I also conduct senior research, and I take a group of students to UCF College of Medicine to do an advanced anatomy experience and course. So that kind of covers the things that I teach, although I also love to teach our health and wellness class, and I'm actually going to share my screen so that I can show you some slides that I share with my health and wellness class. But yet what you need to do is you need to think that this is a course, a health and wellness course is a course that our first year students take so that they can get a foundation of what our department is like, what we hope to promote in their lives and in the lives of the community in which they impact. And so that's that foundational course before we build on the more specific coursework, the biology, the chemistry, the anatomy and physiology, exercise phys, medicinal behavior. We start to build on that foundation, and we hope when they leave, they have applications for that as well. So I'm gonna share my screen here and ask you a few questions as I do that. So I'll be curious to hear what is the message that you take away from this presentation today. And I say that as, what did you hear that will affect you specifically? Okay, because I know our session is about how to manage stress, but managing stress actually has lots of different strategies, and some strategies will work for some people and other strategies won't work. And so it really is looking at how can you manage your stress in the most helpful way from the things that you've learned in our session today. We certainly have looked at the stress-illness relationship, the tendency to practice unhealthy behaviors, which can actually just contribute to a cycle of contributing to more stress that can cause mind body damage or changes in the immune system. I think my colleagues did a wonderful job of covering this information, as well as talking about some strategies that they use and that they promote in managing stress. What I really want to talk about is bringing it all together in terms of a wellness model. In thinking about what makes you well, because what makes you well is an individual thing. So you have to focus on those things that positively impact you, that bring in positive energy, and then those things that negatively impact your health. And you have to find balance between those. And this is what we teach in wellness. We teach how you need to think about the collectively or holistically your overall health and wellness. So I have my health and wellness students do a Depict Your Wellness, and I actually give them an example of this. And I say, okay, think about those things that positively impact your life. And I show them this. I have a wonderful family, my parents and my children, and also my canine family. And these are positive impacts on my overall wellness. And I need to support that energy so that I can bring that positivity into my overall health and well-being. I'll go one step further. That whole pack of dogs is not mine. I actually do a lot of dog rescue, and I do fostering of dogs. And so, well, okay, one of those dogs is not mine. One is a foster. And then you have to reflect on those things that negatively impact. Now, look, there's a picture of Stetson up here, but that doesn't mean that Stetson is negative. You have to remember that for college students, these are the two things that are their big negative impacts. And this is what I share with them. They tell me all the time, it's the finances associated with college that is one of the most negative impacts on them. And I think that is displayed in this wonderful drawing that one of my students, when I asked them to illustrate their wellness, not just to write about it, but to illustrate it, I got this depiction where she showed the things that actually weigh her down, the negative things that impact her overall health and wellness that she feels more a heaviness with. And then those things that raise her up or help buoy her to allow her to have equilibrium and wellness. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about looking at overall wellness and the multi-dimensions that are involved. Today, we spent a lot of time talking about the physical and the emotional dimensions or the psychological dimensions. But what we need to appreciate is that there are things in all these dimensions that can help us balance out the negative impacts with the positive. And we have to look for that balance. One of the lessons I have learned since I became a faculty member here was being associated with Mark Hollis. And the Hollis family is a very generous family, have given a lot of money to Stetson, as well as the Hollis Center itself. If you walk into the Hollis Center, and I encourage you to do that when it's safe, you will see these dimensions around the lobby. And I actually learned quite a bit from Mark Hollis in terms of looking at wellness as multidimensional. And that's what we teach in health and wellness. We teach how you have to pay attention to the negative and the positive impacts in all your dimensions and use that to help balance that negative and that positive energy so that you can manage your stress. So it's not just compartmentalized. Stress is not compartmentalized. It's multidimensional. And you have to find a way to balance that energy. Now, I will say at times I feel like the elephant on the beach ball. And I feel like I'm barely maintaining a balance. But I have to seek one of these other models to help. So I'm ending here with our group talk today with the message of live and live well. And I think you heard that throughout the recordings. I wanted to tell you, this is a group of students that Dr. Evans Anderson and I were at a professional meeting for. And we teach these students to embrace what they're learning in their curriculum to impact their own life, okay, their own personal life. But what we also teach is we want them to go out and be community members that can impact other people's wellness as well. And that means in their practices too. Pictured here are students who are in chiropractic medicine, physical therapy, medicine, physicians, physicians assistants, and healthcare administrators, just in this small group. And we hope what we teach in our department will have an effect on them personally in their own life, that they will live and live well, but that they will also bring this into their communities as community members and practitioners to help everyone live and live well. Now I have couple more slides to share with you. If you like what you heard today and you want to support our cause, we actually have a couple of restricted funds. We have one restricted fund that is called the Health Science Professional Development Fund. And that fund actually helps students and faculty be able to go to professional meetings and present their research. We also have a Health Science Technology Fund, and this is the fund that Dr. Evans Anderson was speaking of. We actually had a Zoom meeting with some of our alumni, and they generously gave to allow us to purchase these codes to have that visible body software that you saw in her presentation for all students. And we hope to enhance this fund so that we could have a virtual dissection table, which is pictured here with a group of students who are in my advanced anatomy class, who were allowed to come with me to UCF, their anatomy lab, and have a cadaver lab experience. So 2 restricted funds that if you're enjoyed this presentation and would like to help us with our mission, we have a couple funds set up.
Hello, alumni and friends. I'm Elizabeth Scomp, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, and I'd like to thank you for joining the session this afternoon. It's an exciting time for health and science education at Stetson University. Health sciences is our most popular major, with admissions inquiries that more than double that for any other area of study. In our continued pursuit of excellence, we are constantly looking for ways to enhance the student learning experience. Thanks to the generosity of health sciences alumni through contributions to the department's technology fund, Stetson's anatomy and physiology students have had the opportunity to utilize cutting-edge visible body software in their courses this fall. Among the most exciting developments on the horizon is the upcoming construction of the C.C. and Hyatt Brown Hall for Health and Innovation, along with a planned renovation of Sage Hall. Thanks to the Browns' generous $18 million gift, Stetson is creating a dynamic interdisciplinary space for teaching and learning. The new building will house programs in health sciences, environmental science and studies, public health, sustainable food systems, and counselor education. As you can see, health sciences has an amazing future ahead. If this news appeals to you and you're interested in supporting our students through guest lectures, internships, equipment, software support, funding senior research, or even enhancing our pre-health advising program, please let us hear from you. For additional updates from the College of Arts and Sciences and an opportunity to hear from the Dean's Office and our faculty, I hope you'll also consider joining our next session, the College of Arts and Sciences Virtual Alumni Reunion. Please take care and be well. Again, I thank you warmly for your ongoing support of Stetson University.